12 inches. It's crazy.
Yeah, that's strong.
This one here, you back into it, and it like spits out big stuff, and then you lift the gate and you drive over it, and it's like fluffy and just everything is incorporated. You can grind down stumps 3 inches below the ground. So, like we had Seth Palmyra on the Shy Road.
Snowman.
Snowman.
Eureka?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Seth from Eureka
Seth?
came out with his excavator boom thing.
Yep.
And did that like 3 years ago. He did 4 acres for us.
Okay.
Paid a small fortune to have him do it.
Oh, yeah.
And then
Oh,
it
it's
all
expensive.
grew back because it doesn't go down and get the crown of the birches and
Right.
the maples, and it's all just
Gotcha.
like 8 or 10 foot high saplings everywhere. So, but this thing like goes below ground and gets the roots. And
Nice.
stuff. So, I'm really happy with it.
Yeah.
Talking about that
If
dry
it
matter.
just stopped raining, so we can be out there
Yeah.
doing it.
Oh, God. I
I
can't
started
even cut my
using
grass.
bedded solids out of the digester a couple weeks ago. That stuff's amazing.
It is amazing stuff, yeah.
I mean, you grab a handful of that. I mean, it's manure, right?
Fluffy
It's
and
fluffy, and you,
dry,
and you put your
it
nose in
smells
it.
good.
It doesn't even have a smell at all. It's
Yeah.
amazing. And we did the bacteria load. We compared that to sawdust. It had a third of the bacteria load in the dry matter as the sawdust did.
I don't recognize
It
Isn't that
gets
crazy?
soupy or
It does.
have a lot of structure to it.
Right.
So it's,
Yeah,
but on
same.
a, it doesn't work on a bedded hash, but
I'm not
it's something
sure.
that's not straight going through.
Yeah.
I don't want to.
You know, it totally.
We don't
and
need to
then
reach
you
it.
just
We
recycle
do
it
not.
all the time.
Oh, and it's so much easier. Like,
I don't know. This is a good show tonight.
because it's so fine. Like it's not
that kind of show.
like sawdust when it goes
Comedy
through
show or something.
like a piston pump. It gets in there, it gets wet, it swells up, it plugs the pipe. This stuff just goes through. It pumps so easy.
There's no structure left
Yeah,
to it.
it's amazing.
Yeah.
I can't believe it. Like I've seen it so many times. Like, oh, this stuff's gonna carry a lot of bacteria. It's not gonna work, and it's like,
No. It just
Really
we just have to
nice.
have the infrastructure to do it.
Right.
And it makes sense for big farms like Floods, but it
Right.
doesn't make any sense for us.
Well, they're
Somebody asked
sending-
me, they're like, oh, do you have a methane digester? I'm like, no, because my cows are out on pasture. It's like,
Right.
why would I even gather all of the poop? You know,
Yeah.
it doesn't work.
well,
on
you're
small
using the food,
farms.
right?
But,
Yeah, it doesn't work on small farms.
No.
No, we have a contract. Our company has a contract with the largest cattle farm on the east coast of New York, I believe. Somewhere Adirondack, New York, I believe.
Probably
So-
in near Rome, like
Just outside Syracuse, I
what
believe,
is
right?
the name of it? Doug used to breed the Marks Farm.
Okay, it might be.
They have like 8,000 cows.
Yeah, so they did something like $100 million
That
investment in methane capture because it's all renewable
Yeah.
natural gas.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing when you put those systems in.
Yeah, they've done like three farms, one in New York, one in Ohio, one in California, I believe. Just massive cattle farms. It's all methane
Yeah.
capture. It's crazy.
Well, Floods is bringing their manure to the digester, so they pull the methane out of it, and as a part of that, they get the bedded solids back out of it for bedding, and that's a huge. Like that's really.
Bedding and even fertilizer with
Oh,
fertilizer costs now.
Oh, it's huge. And the nitrogen's a more readily available nitrogen. Like it's so far, it's been. They've had struggles. Don't get me wrong. It's been aggravating, but
Well, it's for any system like that.
Yeah.
Trying to get it.
well, they didn't put a sand separator at all. And if you have a deep bedded freestall, that's in sand. And even if you dress it with sawdust, when the cows get
Oh,
out,
and sand in it.
yeah, they're still kicking the sand out of the stall.
Yeah, you have to have a filter for that.
And they did, and we're like, you need a sand separator. Like, nah, we do this all over the country, and we don't
Oh,
need
it'll
it.
fill up. It'll
Yeah.
sink and fill up everything.
So they counted it. They had like 49 9-degree elbows going into the digester, and after 4 days of taking manure, they plugged the entire system solid.
Oh.
Yeah, it cost like $50,000 to clean it all out.
Oh.
So that the sand separator would have paid for itself, I think, already. But
Totally. Yeah.
it's been good. I think it's been a while trying to get them on board with different concepts because they think they're pretty smart, and I think they are. But it's just they don't know what they don't know. Like they understand making the gas, but like capturing, like
Did
getting
you
the
want
more
to talk
there.
about town stuff, or can we keep talking?
I mean,
Yeah,
that's,
You guys
that's
keep
talking about
talking.
cows.
Let's talk about cows all day.
Me too. It's more fun.
Yeah.
And everybody agrees.
I'm excited about it.
It's all in harmony and beautiful. I love it.
This is really a really good meeting.
Oh god.
Hate to change
If we
that.
hit stop, let's start talking about tractors.
Yeah,
That's right. That's right. All right, out with the fun. Now with the real stuff. Jason.
Yeah.
You can bring it in.
Focus,
Website,
focus, folks.
Jason.
Very good. Go ahead.
So we're here tonight for the Finance Committee meeting for Tuesday, August 29th, 2023. We'll do away with the Pledge of Allegiance and just get to it. We got expense warrants and water and sewer commitments that we can sign.
It's all sitting right there.
All
We
right.
have one large expense warrant, and the next sewer water commitments will be on September 5th, if we just signed some on the 15th.
Right. Okay. Get into regular business. Some of these things are just more or less discussion points and don't really need a resolution tonight, but figured we'd talk about some of it. I was looking for payroll statements for the past 3 years. That wasn't, we haven't really gotten that yet, but I think
So to meet the requirements of the law, in which we cannot provide benefit information, and the payroll company has, it seems like 50 different reports, but there are always benefits listed in different ones. And we've actually asked payroll management, can you make a report for us? And we've still, nothing has been made, and they don't think that there's one available. So I made from the records the best payroll record that we're going to get from the budget by extracting all payroll records and all payroll accounts and putting those all together for 2021 and 22.
well, I mean, the council has the ability to view payroll warrants, right? The warrants that are signed to,
Well, there are no payroll warrants.
because we
Wait.
waived the
Yes.
that. We waived that requirement for us to sign it. But if we decided that we didn't waive that, then we would be seeing those on a regular
You would
basis.
get a list of what the checkbook for and the accounts. We would have to make an Excel spreadsheet for it.
Well, according to the state, I guess we're looking into it more because I think we can see, there's more information that we can see.
You can look at any budget information, any amount of
Right,
what the pay is. It's just the.
I'm not looking to look at, people's medical history or
No, I
something
know-
like that.
I know that you're not.
We want to see what's being paid out. We want to see what, what kind of health care costs that we are going, because we budget 29 full-time employees to take health care. Not all of those folks take health care. Some of them might not. And then we would have excess for that line item. And it's just,
So that's.
I want to be able to go back and see.
So
But
that's in the budget now. You can look at the lines, and if you want, I can take out everything but healthcare and make a report on healthcare. We used to be able to create those reports in the old Trio very easily. The
Okay.
new Trio does not allow that, and I did have a ticket on that and work with Trio trying to make them, and you can't make a specific report.
All right.
But I can create
So
one.
for tonight, that was just more or less for background information for us to see and have going forward into budget season, just to be a little more helpful. But we don't necessarily need it tonight.
So we do have a solution. It's not a good one, but it will work. We can take the payroll register and wipe out any benefit information, and then you can have the other 3/4 of the information that's there. We would do that for each person that's listed. That is a solution. It's not a good one, but it will work.
Yeah, like I said, we don't necessarily need it tonight. We don't need it. It's not the highest of priorities, so
So if we have.
we're good, I think. But
If we have if we have the budgeted amount for payroll, and then we have the expenses to date through July for each department that has personal expenses listed, then what more? I guess I'm not sure what more you want other than that, because it has the personal services is the salaries, and then the FICA would be the taxes, and then the health and everything. All those expenses are listed for each department. looking to see how many people? Are you
Yeah,
looking for a tally of the healthcare, like who?
more,
how many
some of,
family, how many single?
yeah, I mean, that's helpful because we're trying to figure out some of the healthcare stuff
I
going
mean,
forward.
if you're
But
budgeting
we're-
for healthcare, you have to assume everybody is going to take the family. If you're going to offer family, you have to make that assumption because you don't know the people you're going to be hiring, and you don't know. It might be that people are taking the single now, but then they will take the family. So you
Right,
have
but
to
there, I mean,
assume-
there should be a surplus for the past years for folks that didn't take it.
Well, no, because we just always pay for the individual.
Right, but not every individual takes
So
it.
if they have coverage through another family member and they don't need the town insurance, that would be the only time that they wouldn't be taking.
I don't know everybody's individual.
So during the last several years, until one person arrived last December, every employee that was full-time took the health insurance, single subscriber. We do have one person now who does not.
Okay. Anyway, I mean, it's not something we need to figure out tonight, but it would be helpful, I think.
So if you could explain to
And it's public now. I mean, any citizen can ask for that information and see payroll warrants.
well, no, they can't.
As long as it doesn't have specific information about, like, their medical history or something like
Yeah,
that.
that's the problem that's in there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which we can white it out. if-
No, we
if that's what
don't
you
need
want.
to. No, we don't need to do that.
That's why we haven't done it yet, because it seems
Right.
kind of stupid to have to do that. We'll
right.
persist with payroll management. It seems unreasonable that they can't create a record for us.
Next topic was just funding of positions that we know or that we have funded in the past, and this year we kind of changed descriptions of items. So I think those 3 positions are things that we'll want to fund during budget season, but obviously we'll take the input from the new town manager and, kind of figure that out. But I think that's just more or less something for us to think about as far as what we need for positions going forward. Like the deputy tax collector was funded last year, the assistant town manager, the assistant to the town manager was funded last year. Those descriptions were just modified and now they're somebody else, so it's, I think maybe there's going to be a little reorganization of folks or something like that going forward, maybe. But we obviously need these positions, I think, because you kind of had a bunch of hats, and that may not be the case going forward. So,
What about bookkeeping?
So one item we do need to address is the bookkeeping, because I've been doing that since 2010 to 11, and it didn't used to be very difficult, but now it's just something a town manager should not do.
and what is that job description of? What is bookkeeping?
Bookkeeping is dividing up and posting all of the payroll. It was checking all of the expense warrants and doing all the reconciliations, doing all the bank statements. At one time, way back, we had an individual that did all that and did a wonderful job, but she retired, and so
So that would likely be the treasurer. Is that correct?
it could be the deputy treasurer or deputy tax collector. I tried to combine it and I advertised that, and I got absolutely no good candidates at all.
Right. Okay. So yeah, I mean that's a good point. We would want, but that's typically what that job description is. That deputy tax collector / treasurer.
It hasn't
Sometimes.
been, but it should be.
Yeah.
It can be.
Okay.
That way you can combine it all together.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of this is going to be the work of the town manager to put together a budget that has all this stuff.
Yes.
and present it to us. Obviously, we're not the pull numbers out of thin air here, so I don't know. I don't really think there was much that needed to go into that. I guess just kind of getting what I thought what positions I thought were going to be needed, and then get people thinking about it. I guess more or less.
Catherine, does the bookkeeper and the treasurer need to be two different people because you want a separation between the people like making expenditures and entering the data for oversight, those types of things, or?
The staff in the front office used to do some of the basic clerical work, but because it's so busy now, they haven't been able to do that. So we switched this around so that instead of them doing items, I'm doing them to get it done, because we have to do these items, like the checks have to go out regularly, so I had to take that over. Then they check my work, which gives us segregation now, but we should reverse this somehow. So that's something that Jacob and I'll talk about, and then he can work on.
So the town manager would be more supervisory instead of like boots on the ground doing the bookkeeping?
I hope so, because it takes up, it's like a 60-hour-a-week job to handle all that. You want the town manager to concentrate on regular town manager work.
Okay.
All right. I don't know. You guys probably don't have much input there. Or you good?
I'm good.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, we'll obviously figure that out as a council, more or less, and with Jacob's input. Next topic is a hot topic of the general assistance funding. Finance committee was tasked with figuring out whether or not we wanted to reallocate funds mid-year, or if we were just going to push that off till the end of the year, which according to Catherine and the state, you can overdraft that fund, that budgetary line item, and it's no penalty or anything. There's nothing illegal. It's like a legal overdraft, I guess. So, in my opinion, I don't see why we would move funds twice, like without a guess, and then with a maybe be wrong, we'll have to move them again. So if there's no penalty to overdrafting that line item, I would just overdraft it until the end of the year, and then kind of figure out where that's going to come at that point. I mean, we certainly didn't anticipate. So, say we did pass it last time, we would have reallocated $8,000, and then the month of July would have hit, and we would have had $6,700 on top of that. So we would have had to turn around and reallocate money again. I mean, we could be doing that every month for the end of the year. I think it's a waste of time. But more so, Catherine, you sent out the July expense report.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And that, that general is...
That's a scary line. We got all the bills at the very end of the month.
Yeah, I mean, so up until July, we spent like $7,400.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And then in July alone, we spent $6,719.
That is correct. Everything hit at once. We're getting the Puritan people now. They weren't eligible before because they had money available to them.
So, I mean, I think as a council, we're going to want to see a detailed report of what that is, like what's going on with that.
Mm-hmm.
You know, obviously, I've been told that there's case numbers. Is there each one of these
They're supposed to
requests for general assistance has a case number, right?
When I did them, they had case numbers. They're not on there now, but they will be. They have to be to track it.
Right.
For the state report, which
Right.
The staff is going to do. They've got
Which
to
if
put
it's
on there.
so if it's based on a case number, that would ensure confidentiality,
Yes. Mm-hmm.
and the council would be able to see.
Yes, you can see the breakdown of how much was spent per person or family, and what it was spent
Right, and what it's for, and
Yes.
and then we would see case numbers.
Yep.
what the decisions were based off of.
Right. I mean, if there's like, people that are,
Well, that's something in the research that you did that kind of caught my eye, and I was wondering about that, is municipality of responsibility. So that's one of the determining factors of who pays.
right.
So what makes a determination of someone being eligible in Pittsfield for assistance for housing if there is no housing available in Pittsfield?
So basically, if somebody comes in and applies, they intend to be here in the town of Pittsfield. Generally, they've been here. We've only had one that wanted, two that wanted in, one way back and one now, or close to now. Generally, they've been here for a while, whether it be a month or 3 months or a lot more. They've lost their home, they're living in a tent or a storage container, and we track that back to make sure they were here. But if somebody comes in and says, I intend to live here, I don't live anyplace else, my belongings are here, I intend to reside here, they apply here. We can't send them someplace else. Now, if they're wandering around, we've had a few of these that we've questioned, and I stay here, I stay there, and we have to determine where do you actually stay. And we've disqualified a few people because they actually are more in some other location.
Okay.
But you have to ask a lot of questions.
So-
And be polite, be discreet about it.
But there is no time frame that they have to have been in Pittsfield.
Correct.
So somebody could drive in from Texas tonight and say, this looks like a great town, I want to live here, but I have zero money.
We've had that happen. That happened back when, in my first job in Bosenham. Somebody drove in, they had all their belongings on their station wagon. They said, I'm going to live here. They camped out, and finally we got it resolved, but the state said we had to cover them.
So theoretically, there's no stopping someone from doing that, getting 2 weeks a days, going to Newport, getting 2 weeks a days, going to Etna, getting 2 weeks a days.
Eventually they get caught doing this, but they get away with it for a while. There's a state recording system, like we had a case that was troubling, so I recorded all their information with the state. So it's in their file that these individuals do certain things. And so with the next town, or 2 towns, or 3 towns or more, call in and say, you're going to do this case, the details keep changing, the state can look up their information.
Okay.
But they don't, that's usually, if somebody does that, they're really good at it. And there are people, we've had 2 in the period of time I've been here, 2 cases that were like that. They both ended up getting disqualified, but in the beginning they weren't because you didn't know all the information.
Sure.
And then the other somewhat issue is, we can get reimbursement for 70% of this.
Actually, they've just put it up to 90%.
Okay, which makes it even more.
Even better, yeah.
Is that backdated?
No, it's for this year.
23.
Pardon?
23.
2023.
Yeah, 2023.
So,
So we can file quarterly, we can file half year, we can file annual. So the staff still is going to work on this. I don't want to take it away from somebody and do it. It's a good project for the staff member to work on, but we will get it done.
So what we're saying is that we've spent $14,000 through July, and we're going to get $12,000 of that back.
If everything
Roughly.
qualifies, yes. The funerals and are a little bit,
So why are we carrying as much as we are?
because it has to be gross. We have to keep it in there. We
Okay.
can't, when we get the revenue back, it goes to the revenue. budget.
right.
Sure.
But according to the
So wait, are we budgeting the revenue?
yeah, we did
We did. We
yeah,
budgeted the getting the reimbursement back.
Yes,
Okay.
at 70%.
yeah, absolutely.
So we'll actually
So
have
there's
a
a
better
gain there.
we should have a better revenue, and it will help more so, but,
But we have higher expenses, so the revenue we're getting back is probably, it's still gonna be, it's gonna be more than what we budgeted.
Yeah.
Still
for
20%
coming in,
more, right?
But it's still gonna be less than what the expenses we're sending out are.
Well, no, if we budgeted 70% of 10 grand, we only budgeted $7,000.
$7,000.
So if we spend 30 and we get 90% back, it's 20. We're going to have $20,000 of offset revenue,
It's a ratio.
well,
right? We're going to have additional revenue of 20 grand. So we'll have a revenue surplus.
Because
yeah, I mean, it's not
But
an
your
offset.
expenses are higher.
Your
too.
expenses are
it's not
higher.
offset.
It's
That's
still
what
going
I'm
to
saying,
wash it.
like,
It's not
yeah, you're getting more
offset.
revenue, but you're going out, we're doing more there.
because there
But
are
the
so
It
20%
closes the
is
gap,
still
so.
Yeah.
better.
because there's so many issues, they increased it from 70 to 90. It was something recent.
To me, that just strengthens the argument to not touch anything until the end of the year.
Hey, that's kind of where I was going with it. I think we did the right thing,
Right.
and I think we're doing the right thing, knowing that you're going to get more revenue back.
The problem, the one problem I have is that when you're talking, you said that we can get reimbursement and you file that annually.
You can
That's-
file it in any period of time you want, basically.
Well, according to the GA statute, that's not true. You have to file it within 90 days of the claim.
No, it has,
I mean, I'm looking.
we checked that back and called up the state.
Well, I'm looking at the statute, and I talked to the state, and you have, where is it? It's
So it
right
should be done quarterly then and not annually.
at a maximum of quarterly,
Within
if not
90 days.
monthly, and we haven't submitted anything since May of 2021.
So the state has
Which?
the different options that you can choose, which is more than just quarterly and monthly. It used to be monthly.
I mean, I'm looking at the state statute, and I talked to somebody from the state that actually does the audits for GA assistants.
Yeah, and I talked to the state too. And the staff talked to the state too.
Okay.
In any case, as soon as they get the tax lien process done, which is the most important item here, that's the next project.
Well, we still haven't done it since May of 2021, so the money that was taken out prior to a year ago, according to you, we're not going to be able to recoup.
Yeah, as you remember, we didn't spend hardly anything in 1 year.
I don't care if we spent a nickel. Like if you can recoup 70% of, you
That was
know,
what, 11 grand?
$3,000, then
I believe it was 50%, but
It was 11 grand last year that we spent, right?
no.
no.
Last year was like $2,600.
Was it?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was
Well,
about
that's
2
21 that I was thinking of, maybe.
But that's, regardless, we should be recouping everything we can. And now, so yeah, 4311 state reimbursement to municipalities report. Claim: the Department of Health and Human Services may refuse to accept and pay any claim for reimbursement that is not submitted by the municipality to the department within 90 days of the payment on which that claim is based or at the end of the reporting period for which reimbursement is sought, unless just cause exists for failure to file a timely claim. And that's state statute 43.
And we did speak with the state.
So if the
staff,
reporting
and I
period
did.
is a year and you put it in annually, wouldn't that cover it?
I mean, this,
So, what are the credits that are on? Is that the revenue?
at the end of the
Where are we
report.
looking at?
So I'm just looking at 2021.
Okay. Are we looking at the GA budget, 3005?
Yep.
All right, let's head there.
So it shows GA was budgeted at 15,130. Current month 1704.90. Current month credit 900.
Yeah, 1 year, I'd have to check, but we've had several people give back the money. One person didn't need it. I don't
Okay.
remember which year it is, I'd have to check. There was also a void check at one point too. I'd have to check and see
Well-
what one it was.
It was odd to me because if we're talking about getting reimbursed, and you said at 50%, 900 is like 55% of
Yeah, it's
1704.
not the reimbursement, something else took place.
Okay.
Either there was a void check, because there was a void check in the general assistance account in one year, not this year, but one of the back years. And there was an individual who said, you know, I don't want to take this money, I've found another solution. And then we got the money back from there when it
Gotcha.
was.
Okay. No, I just didn't know what that line item was.
Right.
Yeah,
So, I mean, I guess,
unusual.
for tonight, we're good with, like that, I think that resolution is gonna be on next week's meeting, is that correct?
It's scheduled, yes.
Yeah, so,
Well, it's scheduled for a public hearing already.
right, and we
But-
are kinda in agreement that we'll just
Yeah.
vote that down and not do any of that.
Yeah, but the problem is how much
No,
are we
it's-
spending for the?
It's not a public hearing, that's to go to public hearing.
No, we voted. That was the whole thing that I argued the last time was that we set it to public hearing the last time on the first week, the first meeting. This public hearing September 5th. Is that correct, Kevin?
Yes.
Yeah. So we paid for the advertising and all. That's why I was arguing because I couldn't figure out why we were doing it.
Well, I think the meeting
Voted
was
down.
this meeting was supposed to be early
Yeah, it was-
before, and there was going to be a recommendation, you know, type thing too.
Yeah, so I don't know.
Anyway, I mean, I guess we're gonna vote it down to public hearing.
Advertising's not that much, is it? For a
That's not
Normally
great.
it is, but that was such a tiny one, it's just one sentence.
Oh, that's good,
yeah.
because that stuff's absurdly expensive.
Yeah, I heard like $1,200 or something. I think
Oh,
I
I know.
remember hearing something like
Yeah,
that. right?
those are the budget public hearings.
Oh, okay.
Because it's so long, you have
Oh,
to
yeah.
print, yeah.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
So I guess that's good. The only other thing that I hadn't seen before was the, that jumped out in red on this July 2023 was that the fire department's, looks like they took out the truck loan or something?
Okay,
Is that what that
so
was?
the municipal loans, if I redid the whole budget process, I would have put those further down in the numbers. However, the loans for the truck is under the 60. So the 60 is in there for the truck that we got. And any loan payments that are made for the paving would go in there. All I do is at the end of the budget numbers, I'll just subtract that out so you see the real budget.
Did we end up taking out the loan for the truck? Was that part of that, or was Bernard still doing something?
Oh, there's no fire truck in there. Those are all
Oh.
the public works trucks. Loan with Pittsfield Future Fund,
Oh,
not
oh,
not-
so future FD, I keep thinking fire department. Okay.
So,
Oh, okay. Okay, so that's Donnie's truck then.
correct.
Oh, okay, sorry.
His truck and then some paving monies.
Okay.
I
Well, that's comforting.
had a question about the
I thought it was something.
tanks. Were
What?
those supposed to come out of the ground this year? Tanks at the Public
fuel
Works? Fuel tanks were supposed to come out of the ground, right?
Isn't it 24? Had to be done by the
They have to be out in 2024.
Yeah, I don't think
I believe we
they.
could.
And there's a waiver now that's just
They
taking
don't have to
place.
be.
The
Okay,
state's
because the
done
money's
a
sitting
waiver.
there. That's why I was wondering. 35 grand.
Where is that?
Top of page 9. Under capital budget continued.
Yeah, there's a new
Highway tanks.
regulation in which they're moving that back. We'll double check on that. Moving the date back.
They might add, because it's 30 years currently, right? They might change that.
So state has already issued a waiver, or we're eligible for a waiver?
There was a discussion in a journal that was going to be something the legislature was going to change. I'd have to double check and make sure it happened. But they were talking about moving it back because there were so many towns and government entities that didn't have the funds for it. we'll double check that. But still, that might be a good project to do.
We would say we have the funds, why wouldn't we just knock it out? We're gonna have to come up against it at some point.
Better do it before it becomes an issue
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because if you get a leaking tank and then you're paying to remove,
by the river.
Yeah.
yeah, I've seen that go
I didn't know
really catastrophic.
that was a capital improvement project for this year?
Yeah.
Yeah, because we thought we put money away this year, and I think there was money in the budget in 2022.
There was 10 grand from last year or something,
And
yeah.
then the rest this year, and then it's supposed to be done in 2024. I think there might be more. Is there more funds in the 2024 capital?
There is some funds, yes.
So it was like a 3-year, let's say we're in a
Yes.
3-year period. of
Yeah,
time.
and do the work in 2024.
Oh, okay, we were funding it each year.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you won't actually have an expenditure
Okay.
out of that capital budget until you do the work.
That's the part I couldn't remember when that was
Public
supposed
Works
to happen.
Transfer Station has enough projects ongoing this year.
But highway tanks, yeah, 10,000 last year.
Catherine, these funds that are set aside, they are in interest-bearing accounts.
Pardon?
The funds that are set aside are in interest-bearing accounts.
Yes.
Do we designate that interest in those accounts to go somewhere, or does it get put, like each little bit of interest goes into each?
Each little bit gets put into the 23 reserve accounts every month.
Reserve accounts for each of the
Or
departments of their
accounts.
projects and stuff?
So-
Okay.
So we don't count interest as revenue? That's not considered as a revenue?
It is a revenue, but it's a revenue to a general ledger account. So it's a revenue to that actual reserve. A lot of funds are supposed to stay in that account
Okay.
with its principal
Okay.
project.
Yep.
Okay.
Do you mind can I say something on this? Do you mind if I jump in?
I'll allow it.
You'll allow it?
That's okay.
I did have some concerns over overtime. I see a lot of overtime. We are really up on, I will tell you, Chief Morris runs a pretty darn good P&L. His numbers are balanced throughout pretty much everything, but I see a lot of overtime.
Yeah, transfer station.
So we're transfer station, yep.
Public
Transfer station
work.
and highway.
And highway is also way over on part-time help too. So are they overstaffed this year?
No, they hired a part-time person, and you'll see that there's not monies being spent out of there much anymore because that part-time person, when somebody retired, became the full-time person.
Okay. It seems like it was public works, it was transfer station, but then recycling is extraordinarily low on their spend.
Is that just not
Charging to the
charging to the right account?
That's what I'm wondering. Like, are we paying out overtime that should just be billing?
No, recycling was down on the staff. Remember how Donnie would hire people and then they would take off? I think he's had like 8 different employees there. Now he's got a really good one that hopefully will stay.
I mean, because 250% on overtime. That's crazy numbers.
Does Doc?
Well, when you're short on staff, other people,
Oh, yeah.
they're mandated how many people have to be there working, so
Yeah.
somebody else is working more.
Trust me, my P&L looks just like that right now. I have to explain
Oh,
it.
yeah.
Trust me, mine is crazy.
A lot of overtime too.
Yeah, we have.
For public works, there were 2 weekends where they were out for 2 days straight. One weekend had a holiday involved, which is never good when they're all out there working on the roads, and so that threw things off dreadfully. There were 2 weekends that were like that. One that had a holiday and one that had 2 days that they worked straight
Gotcha.
with breaks.
One thing I do want to say something to Donnie about, maybe you can mention it or whatever. Whenever these guys are going to the store, they're leaving the equipment running. This morning, I watched a guy drive from Public Works to A.E. Robinson in a tractor. And he left it sitting there running by the road for 10 minutes plus while he was in the building. It's like, come on. That was your fuel? You chucked your vehicle off.
Right.
I left my truck on the other day when I went to my buddy's house and I came out and I was like, oh my God, I just spent like $1 worth of fuel. But
Well, it's a safety thing too. You're
Yeah.
So, a kid off
vehicle
today.
running.
Yeah, really.
cheese in it.
right out by right out by the island on the end of the road, I was like, what in the world? It definitely is something that needs to be
It's
I'll
addressed.
also,
advise.
even if the dollars are small, it's also a perception thing too.
Oh,
If
yeah?
you got enough money, just leave that thing running. You know, we got it. We can
Right.
spend it. That's, perception's not good that way.
Right.
I think it's a three-way bad deal.
I agree with you. I mean, you go by in a snowstorm and that loader fires up when the first flake hits and it doesn't hit, but it doesn't stop all night. You can go by there at 2 in the morning and it's just sitting in the parking lot. Just diesel, just a clacking. And it's like, I see money just flowing out of it. Plug the thing in and leave it.
Right.
Just, it really, really needs to be watched.
I don't know. I think that might be an operations thing because I know our tractor has to run for like 2 hours when it's cold because the hydraulics are cold.
Yeah,
It's not
right.
just the engine has to warm up.
Right.
Like you gotta kind of like work the hydraulics for about 20 minutes off and on to get everything cycling and.
Well, yeah,
So-
well, we have a heated building that thing can pull into. I mean,
Yeah.
they could, if
There's
it's going to
ways
be
around
that
it
kind of,
for sure.
there's ways
There's
around
ways
it.
around it for sure. Yeah.
Yeah,
Then
it's-
you're opening and closing your building every time you need to go in.
Right.
So it's like.
yeah, no, I get you.
I'll
I
let
get you.
Johnny look at that. The police chief took care of how the officers were leaving the vehicles running in the summer just constantly. In the winter, of course, you have to, so the windshields will be
Yeah, I get that.
taken care of, but not during the summer.
No, it's just a comfort thing. They want the AC on when they jump in there. I get it, right? I don't like sitting on hot seats either, but
Hot leather seats, black uniforms,
yeah,
July.
yeah, that's right. Yeah, it can be a little sticky, literally.
Yeah, did you have anything else?
No, sorry. It was just a couple of points I had noticed recently.
It's a good point.
Animal control.
Yeah, he's up.
Don't we have like
He's
we
up
have
a
the
lot.
contract?
Yeah, so each year, it seems like we change it, say, well, budget for an employee, or budget for a contract. So this gentleman that's working for us is doing a wonderful job, wanted to be an employee, and Vinny wanted him to be an employee, so we'll change that around. And
Okay,
hopefully
so-
it will stay that
So the
way.
contract that's here now, is that the contract with the facility? The 15,000 or the 20,000? The
let me pull that out.
19,500 contractor and rent, is that the actual facility fee that we pay to the Animal Humane Society down in Waterville?
If I
And
recall.
then the personal services are what we're paying this person?
Yeah, so the animal shelter payment is there.
So that should be a transfer out of the police department at the end of the year to cover that because the officers at the beginning of the year, we didn't have someone and they were doing that job because we didn't fund it. There's nothing in the budget for personal services. It was just a contract.
That's because we thought that.
We had it in,
Will we-
the position was that there was going to be like a lieutenant person and they were going to do, one of the officers was supposed to take over doing, and it just never came to fruition because they couldn't hire anybody that would do.
Well,
Or Amy was
We would
going to
just
do
do
it.
a
'cause
transfer.
We'll just do a transfer from the contract services to the personal services.
Well, no, the contract services is actual contract with the Humane Society to take the animals.
No,
Yeah, but that's-
no, it's not, is it?
Yeah, but it's
I
only
thought
like
it was a
13
contract
grand.
with the animal control officer.
They're in there together, the animal control
Right.
officer and the shelter. So if it overruns at the end of the year, then
Right.
we would just transfer from police probably, if it did.
Which it doesn't look like it's going
It
to.
doesn't seem like it would now.
We've
The
only
contract was right around
We've
13, right?
20%.
Let's see, 6,000. It's right in the budget,
Is it in there?
I
July.
think it's like 13 or
13, I thought. That was
It
what
didn't, I remember it didn't change much from the prior year.
Yeah,
For the,
for
Shelter.
the Waterville shelter, it's like 13,000 was the number.
right.
Because it's always hard to get that number from them for the following
Yes,
year.
yes.
And I was talking to the animal control officer, he'd like to do something different with that anyway.
That would be
Because
good.
they don't take any cats.
They take 2 cats a
They
year.
won't take any.
And they
And
never
we're paying them
call.
for cats.
Yeah. They
And
said,
so he ends up taking them, there's a place in like St. Albans or something that takes all of them.
he's
wow.
found a refuge.
Takes all of them and it doesn't cost much, I guess. So anyway, he's bring that up in our budget season.
Are
But
they licensed to even? Like, are we sending animals to some place that's not licensed?
I think they're going to a
I mean, a
It's
lot
a
of times
re-
a
it's a re-
refuge is like somebody that just likes animals and
No.
feeds them, you know, like seriously,
Two
like
cats in the house.
Coley Refuge, you know, things like
it's
that
a-
happen. So
it's a rescue place. I don't know. I mean, he deals with them with other towns
There's
too.
some gators in the vets.
He's got contracts with them with other towns.
There's no payments being made to them, they just volunteer as a refuge for kitties.
And I think if that's the case, if they're refusing, we need to decide whether or not we're going to pay the full contract this year. I mean,
Well, the problem is the dogs, because they do take the dog, they're not taking any cat.
to me, it's percentage based. If I
Right.
take you 20 and you deny 10, you're getting half. I mean,
so maybe we need to have like a per animal
yeah.
cost instead of a yearly thing.
Yeah, I mean, we can discuss it with the animal control officer.
Yeah.
Sure, he knows better than we do.
I did ask him to look at that, and Vinny agreed that we need to get going now, so if we go
Right.
someplace else, we can get a place.
Right, yeah.
I'd like to see numbers on how many are actually going, like how many dogs and stuff. And if we have a real problem with, you know, either animals that are on license or animals that are not vaccinated, or just people having puppies and things that, like maybe have some public awareness campaign or something that,
Right.
you know,
Yeah.
for spay neuter, low cost spay neuter programs. There's one up in, is that Glenburn outside of Bangor, and then there's one down in the Topsom area that will do very low cost spay neuter.
Oh,
You know,
nice.
if we can kind of urge people to do that and get the word out about that, it might decrease the number of extra critters around.
Right.
Yeah.
That's smart.
That's definitely an area we need to look at this year.
Yeah.
Maybe the police department can do some programming around that.
We haven't got that one figured out since I've been on council. It always goes one way or the other with animal
Well, it's
control.
staffing driven too, you
So-
know, it's what the
Yeah.
person that's doing the services prefers is what we've
Yeah.
kind of been reacting
But-
to.
I will say this guy's on it.
He is.
Very,
He's
very
great.
good.
I think
Yeah,
Having him.
very good.
would be excellent for us, but we'll see. We'll
He's
see what they
volunteered at all the community events, like the one in
Yeah.
the park. He was out there. Well, it was awesome.
No, he's exceptional.
He is.
Did anybody else have anything on the July?
So the only thing I want to bring up in the overtime is generally, if you find people that want to work and we're managing it, I mean, I'm going to speculate that some of this is probably compensation for being a little underpaid for the positions they're in. So you probably float some more hours than maybe they would typically get. But if we're happy with what they're doing, I think paying a little bit of overtime is still better off than adding another additional position. So I don't want to.
Sure.
I personally wouldn't discourage Donnie from working overtime. I would just say let's budget for it properly,
Right.
and if it gets out of control, like I would think a $12,000 overrunner in Public Works with what they've done this year with the culverts and all the extra rain we've been getting in the washout.
Yeah.
I mean, what I've seen being done is good, and the guys, I would say generally for what they do, are probably underpaid. So if you float some few more hours and they're being productive, I don't want to.
Right.
I don't want to whoop them. I guess. I mean, I think I'd rather have people that want to work 45 hours than people that only want to work 32.
There's good overtime. There's bad overtime.
Right.
There's managed overtime.
make
There's
sure it's
unmanaged
managed.
overtime.
I guess that would be my message personally.
And I think for public works, it's always driven by the weather.
Right.
You know,
Very
whether
much.
it's storm cleanup,
Right.
prevention,
Yeah.
you know, those types of things. And even like accident stuff, if there's cleanup that has to be done with accidents or something
Right.
like that, sometimes
Yeah.
they get called out.
And if you're paving a lot of roads and you got to
Right.
supervise the
Comes out.
contractor, you got to ship the side of the road, you know, you're going to ditch them. I think what's going on is good stuff.
Yeah.
I just don't want to beat them up.
That's a good point.
No.
Yeah, we're not looking to. I don't know,
No,
we
Just
I
want
just say
follow
in the budget next year, just
Yeah.
be
That's
yeah,
exactly
realistic.
right.
just be more accurate with it, or as accurate as we can be, predicting the weather and everything.
I see quite a number of items that were 75+% on. I mean, I'm not going to nickel and dime over $700, but
Right.
Yeah.
if there's 15 items that are $700 over at
Sure.
this point, which there are, you know, we probably should be looking at that next year in the budget and saying, hey,
Right. And Catherine provided us with the electronic copy of this, so
yep,
I think we can kind of utilize that our
Excellent.
benefit and flag stuff. And
Were you
Make
able
sure it
to
doesn't fly.
use that okay? Because
Yeah.
it moved all around and finally I got it to stay.
no, it's sweet.
Okay, good.
Yeah, more of that's just easier.
But when are we starting our budget process?
That's in tonight's agenda.
There's a calendar.
Calendar, exactly.
Just tonight.
Did I miss it?
But
The last page is.
Oh, there it is. Other business.
yeah, stay on
I
topic.
thought you wanted to end. Well,
Stay on topic. Shut up. Is that what you're saying? Okay.
Yeah, let's stay on topic. I'll get to that when I get to that.
Yes, sir. We take it forward. That's what I'm talking about, managing overtime.
Yeah.
Don't keep us on
Yeah.
task.
Stay on task. Expense revenue report for each month. So I don't even know. I mean, you've been providing that, so as long as we keep getting them on a monthly basis, that's great. I don't think we need to talk about it. Water and sewer funding and rates. I brought this up because I know, what was it, last year, maybe the year before, we hadn't touched water and sewer rates for like 10 or 12 years. And then we jacked it way up on everybody by, say, 50%, and there was a big uproar and all that. So is Oliver responsible for kind of alerting us to the fact that we need to, either increase rates, decrease rates? I mean, obviously they're doing all the maintenance, so they know what needs to be funded. This, water and sewer is supposed to be self-sustaining, not a taxable system. So I guess, is that something that they will do during budget season and then alert us that, hey, this rate needs to be $8.25 per 1,000 gallons versus $7.25 or whatever it is?
The sewer is easy to do, and I actually can do it, but Annalise can do it, or the new town manager can actually. The water is more complicated. It usually takes them 3 or 4 months to go through the entire process, but she can easily run numbers.
Right.
But there's a big study that goes on, and last time we had to pay them, but we can try to convince them that it should be part of the operations.
Right. I mean, so
3-year run rate's all I need to know, right? Are we gaining ground or losing ground every year? 3 years.
right. I mean, the things that come to mind is Birchwood Terrace and the fact that we've told residents, year in, year out, we're not doing your paving because of water and sewer, water and sewer, water and sewer, and then, what's really being done with it, obviously the grant money and stuff like that we have or have not gotten. But if, say we never get grant money, well, you gotta fix it somehow. So same as like, what was it, Nichols Street by Manson Park, or Manson Street, whatever it is. That road, we haven't redone that road because underlying issues with.
Well, Annalise, we actually found that's one we can pay because there are no issues, and she.
In front of Manson Park?
Not by Manson Park, but Manson Street.
Oh no, I'm talking about, what is it, Nichols Street?
You're talking about,
Talking about Lansing, right?
yes, Lansing.
Oh, Lansing, yeah.
Lansing, yeah.
Yeah.
With, the last 3 years has been an issue with that, but like, have we done anything to correct that stuff so we can fix the pipe, water and sewer, and then pave it? Like, are these rates accounting for all those things? Like, you gotta have all the maintenance for these systems, repairs, whatever. It's supposed to be self-sustaining, so I don't know. I guess I'm worried that we go another 10 years, we never touch rates.
No, we said we weren't going to do that.
Did we get any update on the revolving, freshwater revolving fund or whatever? There was the loan that we were potentially eligible for after not being eligible.
Yeah.
Drinking
Oh,
water,
right.
the drinking water.
The drinking water, they just sent the paperwork for Birchwood Terrace.
Okay.
Which would, they sent the paperwork for Library Street, but we had told them we were only going to do the study and not the project, but they sent everything together as a package, so we're trying to get it straightened out now.
Because we were supposed to do, if I recall, Honeywell Avenue and Birchwood.
They
And we
have-
had decided to drop the library off, right?
Yes,
Study.
we did, but the state evidently has added that back in, so we gotta get that resolved. That just came through. The Maine Municipal Bond Bank didn't have a quorum last month after wanting to rush the paperwork through. They had some sort of conflict, and then they were voting on it and going to let us know this month. So it should be shortly for
Okay.
all of those projects.
And was that interest rate still the same that it was last year, which was the 1% when we were discussing that?
We're gonna have to find out.
Okay.
So the interest rate that would be set would be depend on how many projects are taken on, because the water sewer has to pay for those projects within those budgets. So, asking whether this is okay, we kind of have to wait and see what projects are going to be approved, either with other funding, with some funding from elsewhere apparently, and then how much more of that funding in that project, the design and the implementation, what the cost is, and then what implication that has on the rate and whether it has to go up.
So that conversation was that we could do it with a minimal impact to the water rates. It was 9%, because 9.7%, because we said we needed less than a 10% increase.
Right.
I remember. And
I
then
remember
sewer rates were going to cover.
Sewer was okay.
Sewer was going to cover everything. Yeah. It was water, but with that, the drinking water loan, we were going to be able to do it with a minimal
Right.
increase. It was like 9.8% increase.
It looks like we're still fine, but we'll need to get what they've agreed upon. Their meeting may be this week. It may have been last week and we weren't notified.
Because there's an issue with the sewer line on Honeywell, if I remember, all the way at the end, right?
That's the sewer line.
Yeah.
The water line has an issue too.
It drops down to like
Yeah.
2 inch or something like that. There's backup issues and
At the very end.
So last time they did the assessment and they put through, they had to go to PUC and ask for the water rate and
Yes.
to change and all that and everything. That was like May that was done. It wasn't done with the budget season. It was done like mid-year. And then it didn't take effect for the town, for our town budgeting. It only took effect January 1st for our fire hydrant issues.
Gotcha.
And the fire and the use in the town. So that affects our budget, but the the rate payers would be affected like within the 30 or 60 days, wasn't it? Once it was approved.
It depends on how you
Public
put it
hearing.
through. That was a more complicated one because it was for a longer period of time. And we were going to be drastically affected anyway on the hydrant rates.
Right.
So it was structured so that the hydrant rates would go into effect with our budget and we would pay more because it didn't go into effect on October 1st, where the citizens were affected on October 1st. And
So we just
everybody else.
delayed our payment for that into the
Yes.
following year. We paid a little extra the following year, and then it went back to the regular rate.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I'll
so-
talk with Annalise and see how long she thinks it would take to do a project. And whether we actually need to make changes.
Right.
The
Because it's not
water-
just those three
There's more.
places that we're getting funding that are an issue, there's,
And the water needs to be looked at.
Right.
We said we were gonna look at it every
Yes.
2 years.
okay. That's all, I just didn't want it to go stagnant and then fall
No,
off
that
the
has-
radar and then we
That
have,
has to be
a
done.
big
The
issue,
water
so-
is delicate.
not that I really want to raise anything ever, but, you need to. at some-
We still have
sometimes.
water rates when you compare to the rest of the state, they're very low.
Right.
Which is why we can't get much water funding. The sewer is
Right.
still low, but we are able to get more funding because it's based on different criteria.
Right. So, and maybe that's part of that assessment too, like, we raise this a little bit more, but we get a lot more funding if we do that, like, kind of weigh pros and cons to that. So, I don't know, that wasn't, not much we have to do, I just didn't want it to go by the wayside. Health insurance, we talked about that kind of last meeting. And we know that's not something that someone would get turned around quickly. We've kind of tasked the new town manager and whatnot to, that might be one of the things that he's going to be working on. So, this was made before we had that discussion, so that's why it was on there. obviously I think we need to shop around, but that's up to somebody else to do, so we'll let them handle that. The last topic there was just the department budget requests and the forms. I know last year we had a painful budget process, and I don't know, Eric, Craig and Heather, have you guys looked at these forms? Do you think those are kind of what we would expect, and that will help?
I think it's
I-
pretty standard.
I mean, I guess the biggest thing is, like, I would actually like to see them from, I don't know if I necessarily saw them during budget season. Obviously, I think they
Additionals
come,
are in the book.
okay.
I think we
Yeah.
see I think that the budget book contains the additional requests,
Yeah.
which also kind of use the same format, but not the regular budgeting type stuff.
They saw the capital requests, but not everybody had submitted them.
Okay.
The issue is that before COVID, it was several years ago, up to several years ago, it was very easy to get quotes from everyone. They would have all their quotes, everything matched up, they go do their projects, but now they're having trouble getting their quotes. And then the quotes will change by the time you go to do the project, regardless of when you're going to do the project. So it's as though we have to line this up and make sure everybody starts early, which is why we went to the department head meeting again, like we did last year, and they were told that they needed to get all their quotes together, and they needed to do their capital planning, and that everything would be submitted to the new town manager. I would organize it all and give it to him, and that they needed all their documentation together in order to get any funding. So
Should we do more of like a CAR process, like a capital appropriation request, where you actually have to put numbers to it that has a return on investment of some sort?
Isn't that what this is? This form?
Yeah.
It asks what you're going to do. It asks what the impact is, what the origin of it is, any new personnel, like what else is needed, how you're going to work with other departments. Does it benefit more than one department? I know we have some equipment that's shared between Public Works and the Water Department.
So those are
Helping
soft,
two different
Right.
departments share that.
right? I think those are soft. Those are soft measures.
Are you looking for like, if I buy this piece of equipment, I'm going to save this many man hours?
Yes. I'm looking for, if I buy this, I'm going to save this much repair. I'm going to save this many work hours. I'm going to do hard numbers, like just something that a math geek like me would like to see, like the percentage of what the benefit is. Like this truck that we have today is nickel and dime me to death. It's costing $50,000 a year to maintain. If I buy this new one, just the cost of maintenance decline is going to make the payment on that vehicle. That makes
I feel
it
like
easy.
we get that from the department heads when they come in.
I don't often see math. It's usually kind of like a soft, man, that truck is old. We put a lot of money into it.
Well,
Yeah.
Buy a new
a
one.
lot of times they need to be replaced because they don't run anymore, and so
Sure.
we're
Oh, it's just very
So
generic.
we're always in a position of we're at the point where it has to be, because everything gets delayed, where it's
Sure.
like it has to be replaced now or we just don't have a truck.
So-
This has to be replaced because it's just not functioning anymore, or we can't get
Right.
replacement parts.
So I'll give you a good
So
example.
we don't
Donnie's
have the
gonna-
benefit of like planning that out.
But you do in a way is like, okay, so say like the grader. Let's talk about this 1938 grader that we spent $20,000 a year in maintenance. What could you?
Pretty much.
1948.
1937 was a horse-drawn model. We have the first one under self-power, yes.
But if I was going to write CAR on that, right, I would write, we have a need for this equipment, and instead of buying one, if we rent one, it's going to cost this, or we buy one for this. Like, it's just it makes it more of a math decision instead of a feeling.
Yeah.
Right? Emotions.
Actual numbers to the
Do we track maintenance by vehicle?
return on investment.
I don't think so. Do we have an asset management system?
we have I've tried to do that in the expense warrant by listing the truck
I see it, yeah.
and the item, but there's not enough space to fit everything in.
Well,
So, but do we have that? If it's not there, it does not exist,
No.
right? So, I don't know how you manage a fleet without having an asset management system.
I can go in.
Even Excel spreadsheet or whatever you want it to be.
Yeah.
But it's hard to write a CAR right, if you don't have the data behind it.
That's
Which
the
we
kind
have
of thing
to.
that a bookkeeper could do.
Well, we
that's
have-
the kind of detail that a bookkeeper could do when they're processing the warrants
Sure.
to
The insurance,
segregate that
absolutely.
information and put it into those.
We have the
columns
list of
and
assets,
whatnot.
right?
Yeah. List of assets, and then
We
you
have
that.
that from like the insurance company.
We
Yeah,
have,
but that's
we
not-
have the assets, the fixed assets, and we
Right.
have the insurance.
So
Or we're saying
we'll
we
have
But
have
the
you're
resources,
saying,
and then
like,
you.
I want to see what are the oil change costs? What are the replacement part costs? What is the hourly rate we're paying for
Right.
for parts and
Yeah.
for labor for the
The
equipment? to be fixed?
department head for that equipment should be.
Yeah, I mean, we used to replace equipment based on mileage or hours,
Right.
and now you can't do that anymore because stuff lasts either so much longer
Oh, no.
or so much
Shorter.
shorter, depending on if it's a diesel or gas job now.
Right.
And it's just how do we make those decisions?
Yeah.
And I know a lot of it's just aged out and it's getting to be junk. I get that.
I think
Well, we
that's
have
what
had
you can
really
put that in
easy-
here as to why the project is needed, impact of the project. That, what you're talking about should be included in that section. Like, why is it needed? We're spending X dollars every year on maintenance.
Yep.
Or this doesn't serve the needs of our fleet anymore. Or we
Right.
need to upsize this truck because of the jobs that we have coming up type thing.
Right.
You know, I feel like that just more details are needed in there, and I think Catherine, in talking with the department heads, can kind of relay that to them, and or just add to it. You know, is there a financial impact? Is there a man-hour impact? And have that be part of their assessment of the equipment,
Yeah.
because they know this information.
Right.
They just it's hard to get department heads to put the information down because they're pulled in so many different ways.
And I feel a lot of it's made on gut feel, not necessarily like gut feel and emotion is different than math, right? And I think we can prove it with math. It's as long as it's not garbage in, garbage out. If it's good numbers,
Yeah.
helps you make
Catherine,
decisions.
do you have an idea of how long it takes a department head to fill out one of these forms for one project or one piece of equipment? Like, for everything they want to do, like, what's the hour ask we have for them for just doing this budget, which is above and beyond their work week, you know, that they're doing on a regular? Like, do we need to make sure that our staff has built-in time in the month of September or even August to spend 15 hours a week for 3 weeks to pull all this information together?
Well, I know how long it takes me to put these items together when I do it, and it takes considerable time.
Yeah.
I would say 10 hours per form, because you need to get the quote,
Calling the
you
quotes,
need to write it up,
doing assessment of your
check the
repairs.
maintenance, or check
Yeah.
the costs.
So there's a huge time ask in,
I think
in
that's
this
where
stuff.
your tracking comes in, though.
Absolutely.
You're to the department,
It
if I
can
have
be
a tracking
streamlined,
document,
sure.
Yeah.
half hour per form.
Right.
I mean, all you're doing is writing a story at that moment.
And it's not like
Every
that great or
story.
something new that we don't know about. Like
Yep.
Donnie could do that back in, March if he wanted to.
Right.
He
There's
knows
programs
it's like an issue, so
There's programs out
build
there.
this out ahead of time. You could have all these ready to go.
Like you could buy.
Yeah.
It's called Full Bay. It's a work order system. It's an asset management system.
Right.
It's not expensive, and you track all that stuff. And we're a small company, and we're doing it
Right.
because it's getting so expensive to maintain the stuff. It's like, all right, we got to figure out where we're spending all of our money. Because at the end of the month, it's like my gut feel is that truck is draining us, but without having it segregated out by account or by piece of equipment, you don't really know.
You're just guessing, or
Guessing.
not guessing, but
Right.
What is the
More or less.
name of the software?
Full Bay.
Full Bay.
Full Bay. FULBAY.
Okay.
I
It's
still
not
think like the
expensive.
most straightforward would be through the PO system that we have,
Yeah.
like in the immediate
well, that needs to be
now.
re-
You know,
revamped
the
too.
PO system when they're putting in POs
It's true.
and they're saying, well, I need parts. All they have to do is put in like what the vehicle is, and maybe it comes down to each department has a PO that's specialized for them, like a PO form for them. Like maybe Public Works PO has one column that lists all of the equipment, and they check off the equipment that this part is going for, or the equipment that this supply is needed for, or maybe like this is a road and they write in the name of the road that it's going to, because those are assets too, right? Like
Well-
how many hundreds of dollars in gravel are we putting in Sibley Road every year? You know, those types of things.
Well,
Um,
to that point, like something that Catherine just said, it's hard to write in '07 Chevy pickup, right? I saw that on the expense
You
warrant
can hardly
tonight.
get anything in
But
there.
asset number 214
Yep.
is really easy to write in there, right? That's a really short thing. So if you assign each asset a number,
Right.
and then you can start to track that by asset number.
Yeah,
that's something that we can.
does that.
Right.
Let's
And it
put
starts with
QR codes on all
right.
the, all the
Yeah,
equipment.
yeah,
You
yeah.
know, everybody has smartphones. They grab a QR code, it opens up a Google Doc
Yeah,
on their
absolutely.
phone or an
Okay.
Excel sheet for that piece of equipment, and then they just type in, order this, order that.
Right. I have, like, every truck in my fleet is the year that it's, the number on the truck denotes whether it's, like for us, delivery or service, then the year that it's made, and then its truck number. So that lets us keep an asset tally, and we get to see by asset and track everything. I get to see fuel, I get to see maintenance, I get to see downtime, and I can track that all and start putting in my order for replacement based on what I'm seeing. And I can track that year over year and see the maintenance increase and the downtime increase,
Right.
and then start to apply.
It's not a different conversation than putting a roof on the ground, right?
No.
I mean, you can put $10,000 a year patching that roof together, or you can spend 50. It's like operating poor
Be done with it.
doesn't always end up with a net, being profitable.
Right.
Sometimes you're better off to say, this is milking me. Boom, gone, buy new. Because, and if you can do it on an ROI, and if you're money driven, that you understand numbers, it's not just an emotional thing. You're appealing to more than just one type of person.
That's right. But the asset number allows you to notate everything on your PO, and I think that's save it, easy to track.
So on the PO, some of the departments do very, very well, but we do have to ask a lot of questions to make sure we know which vehicle items are for. But
Just,
we've got
yeah.
good records for some of the departments.
Yeah, you do it, but it just when I'm looking at,
Justifies your point of like the numbering system.
yeah, it just helps, especially Donnie with 30 assets
I
sitting
know.
there, right? I mean, that's
I know.
right now, whatever it is, that's craziness.
Yeah.
But it's not just, so I think that whatever the system that gets put in place, whether it's fine tuning, what we're doing now with the existing PO, like tinker that a little bit, or go with all something new and assess what that looks like and have it be like town-wide for assets. Because the computers are another thing, like, when we have things like that happening with the computers or even like in the facilities and stuff, whatever it is, it needs to be easy to use and for a variety of
Yeah.
learning types and skill sets, because not everybody has the skills or the patience or the time to be like driven in that way to
Yeah.
do that. They are
Right.
more, I gotta get this done. I don't have time to do that, So whatever it is, that lift has to be small for
Right.
our employees to do it.
I
There's
just-
one more thing they have to do.
But you're right, and I think that the implementation period takes longer. But once you have it rolling, it's actually much shorter to track.
Right.
And I'm very linear thought, much like Eric on that. If I don't see a number, you can't prove to me why you need it.
Right.
You,
It's a math.
you can plea with me all day long, and I'm like, I get it, but I hear you. I don't see it.
Show me.
Show me.
All right, I'll put out an inquiry on the town manager's listserv. This is something they've been talking about recently. It's because of the cost of everything. You can't buy anything now. Buying a truck is 3 times as expensive, so you have to do a better job at maintaining it everything. So there were a couple of town managers that put out requests for information on the systems that people had, so I'll find out if they got anything.
Well, I mean, we can. Yeah.
And do we have like a maintenance schedule?
For like
Like every 200 hours,
oil changes,
8 p.m.,
grease,
full p.m.
fuel filters.
No. When it dies, they fix it.
They have listings on the checks on what they're supposed to check for at Public Works, water sewer, in order to then do the oil changes and everything. But I'm not sure if everything is being maintained now, because there's a new system that they're working on from the insurance company.
Okay. Because like light vehicles on one maintenance schedule, heavy, medium duty vehicles on one schedule, heavy on another, and it's kind of you'll see your expenses decline as much as you don't think so. PM interval PMs, preventive maintenance.
Full day does that too, right? You put a certain
Right.
maintenance in, it pops up saying the truck needs an oil change.
That's right.
It just takes the guesswork out of it. If that guy quits and another guy comes in, the information's still inside the system.
Right.
We still have continuity.
I'll look up that system.
Well, I mean, I don't know if that's something Jacob could be doing too. He might want to do it some way that's
Yeah, that's
completely
fine.
different than,
I'll just get the
you know,
information.
I don't know if we want to roll out new systems, you know.
Well, no, we
No,
don't
I'm asking
before he gets
questions,
here,
do that.
But asking questions to bring thought-provoking questions.
Oh, yeah. No,
It's
I agree
smart
with
to
that.
just
I'm
bring
just
attention
saying.
to it.
Yeah.
Yeah, remember,
Yeah.
I'm combining and getting all the information for him, so I'll get some information on
Yeah.
that.
No, I mean, I think it's a great idea. Only good would help everybody involved. So, anyway.
But that goes back to
So that
you
goes-
asking about the reform, right?
Right, yeah.
Loop it back around to the CAR-ish type
Yeah.
requests would be.
Well, last year, I remember the fire budget was like, I want additional money because I want additional money. It's like, well, for what?
Exactly.
And there was no substance at the end of the night. Probably was a need, but no ability to explain it.
Right.
So where are we at with the fire truck?
Do we not find one?
At the department head, we spoke of that. He has researched a number of vehicles and called and has not found a vehicle that he feels would be adequate for the fire department for the future.
Okay.
And
Okay.
he was told that he needed to work on that because we're coming up the budget process there.
Well, I just don't want to hear this year during the budget process that we wouldn't fund it, right? Because we agreed we would, and now it's just falling to pieces that we can't find one. I mean,
I mean, there's 350 grand in there, I think. Wasn't that what we ended up?
There was.
Huh?
But we didn't take out a loan for it, did we?
No.
Yeah.
No, but the approval is
No, I
there for
know.
up to
Yeah,
350.
I agree. But
sorry, full day.
What car it is again?
CAR capital appropriation request. Yeah.
Investment return, and it wasn't.
All right, do you
Okay.
want to make changes to the capital form?
That's it, like at the end
Um,
of the bottom of the CR, that's already getting,
I mean-
the ROI percentage.
Right.
Boom.
Eric, did you want to? Do you have like an example of maybe something you'd like to see that's different than this, or are you good with
I can
these things?
I can get a CAR. I can get a blank CAR form that would be way too complicated to start.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
Maybe
have,
we're better off to.
I have a super simple one at work. I'll see if I can get it without the company logo on the top and see if I can bring it in. Mine's super simple.
And maybe they have one that's dumbed down from the one that I used to use, because the one we had was involved. It was
We're not saying you necessarily have to use
I don't want
it.
guys spending 4 hours on each piece of equipment. I get that. I mean,
I think there's some skill.
So we need to
Oh,
make
but
sure
that's
that
what the
they
garbage
get
garbage out thing.
Because you're not.
everything filled out here with quotes and bids that are
Right.
good for a while,
Right.
so that they can do the project. I
And
think that's the
to do
big,
it for the.
big emphasis here, because they used to have that and it went along well.
Sure.
And then it fell apart after COVID.
Yeah.
Not their forte.
No.
yeah,
Maybe there's a hybrid form that we make.
So,
I think it asks the right questions. I mean, I think
yeah, yeah.
if
think that's the
somebody
right question. I
follows
think
it,
it's
it
good.
works really good.
Yeah, I don't think it's bad. at
no,
all.
it just doesn't give the data in a way that you can. For a data-driven individual, you're not going to see it. It's going to get muddy.
Right.
But again, I mean, it asks the questions, right?
Yeah.
What departments would be assisted? Please list all benefits from replacement.
Yeah, it's completely filled out. It works really well.
And not just pencil whipped, right?
Yeah, they just you got to put a little effort into it.
Yes.
Is it a digital form?
Yes.
Can they
Yeah.
type that?
Yeah, you can
Well.
type into it.
Do all of them have?
Not everybody has a computer. Like, we type up for some of them in the office,
That's all right. All right.
or I do.
Okay. I think we're good on that topic.
You thought that was going to be an easy one.
No, I mean, I think that's good discussion, what we kind of want to see.
So the forms would likely have to go out this week in order to get into the schedule so that so that we get everything done with the public hearing at the first meeting in December, which is a bit ambitious, and for Jacob to have all the information ready when he arrives, and for them to have enough time to do it.
Yeah.
So on the schedule, I have, pass out all the forms at the end of the week there.
We had budget meetings last year, starting end of August.
Yeah. It was
We were in budget meetings already by now.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It
you
was
were
very
early
preliminary.
last year.
Yeah, we were very early.
It was very preliminary because, and the problem, and part of the
Yeah.
frustration last year is because the information wasn't available, and you're looking at it 4 months before you can make decisions, and a lot of the information got outdated. So
Yeah.
the push to go early is like good for discussions like this about like what you might want to do, things like that. But talking hard numbers
Yeah.
when you don't even have, when you just
Right.
have June
Right.
to look at, you don't even know where you're going to finish for the year is difficult.
And getting the actual bills, we are still getting bills in from last year. Only a few have, said, well, it's too bad, it's too late, but eventually,
Right.
you have to pay them. But the bills all came in basically by the end of March. I started posting them all. It's just everybody's late, but a few people, when they had their bookkeepers come in for tax purposes, found things they hadn't charged us for, things we didn't know about, but less than the.
So just a few comments about the budget process this year. Like hopefully we're not making changes to power bills and fuel bills and things like that. Like hopefully, I felt like this past year was like a work session. Like we were helping the department heads go through their budget here. And I feel like that work should be done. And at this point, when we're sitting here, it should be checking the boxes, going down through and saying, ooh, this doesn't look quite right, and circling 1 out of 10 lines and saying what happened here, not having it be a work session. And maybe that's unrealistic, but I feel like last year we spent a lot of time going through and adjusting power bills and fuel bills and insurances and wages. It seemed to me like a lot of the stuff we know is going to be higher or we know is going to be lower. That should be communicated to the department heads ahead of time and give us something that's not final draft, but a solid draft.
Right.
And I think it takes away a lot of the frustration from the department heads and from us.
Yeah. Don't come into the meeting with 10% of a line item used and leave it as the same dollar amount.
Or ask for more.
Adjust that thing.
Unless you can
Right.
explain it. Maybe
Right.
they know off to the side of the
Right.
why.
Yeah, exactly. Like, don't make us figure it out.
I would strongly suggest them increasing energy costs this year.
I was trying to think back, and I think a lot of the adjustments that you're talking about was in response to what was happening at the end of the year with
Yeah.
inflation, and then going into another year and trying to figure out what that was going to look
Yeah.
like. And I think a lot of the conversations revolved around that, and that's what drove a lot of the adjustments and things. And I feel
Right.
like there's a lot more details being required from from the perspectives of new council members going through the budgeting, like looking at those details in different ways that haven't been looked at before. So, and I think the work, I don't agree. I think the work session is the time to kind of go through that, the nitty gritty. It's already been gone through once. It's already been gone through with Catherine. She's met with them and stuff. And then it's like 7 more eyes are on it to look at it and with different perspectives, like operations, management, boots on the ground, like all those different perspectives. And I think that that's where the value of having the work sessions, because there never used to be budget sessions. It was just in council chambers during the meetings. It wasn't, Deborah wanted to start these budget sessions where we can sit and discuss all this ahead of time before going into those meetings. And I think they've been extremely valuable because you do get more information kind of doing that way and be able to talk through that stuff.
Do you think last year's budget sessions were as productive as they could be?
I think that a lot of people on the committee had a difficult time parsing out the information, but I've looked at the budget for a bazillion times now, it seems, and I can find things, and I'm familiar with the budget book, and I feel like a lot of new eyes were on the budget book, and I think that that created a lot of confusion as to how the budgets work together and the line items and those different kinds of things. So I think that drove a lot of the frustration, and not having it in a format that everyone's used to, Excel or QuickBooks, or something digital, not the paper forms to flip through. And so that kind of like created a disparity of perception and an ability to kind of access the information, I guess. You know, we're all used to like clicking through things and click this button and I have a report at my fingertips and I can find the information in 10 seconds flat by typing in and doing a search.
Right.
But not having, I think definitely if Catherine's able to do it sounds like she's given Jason the Excel form of the budgeting. So I think that and it makes it more manipulative.
In live,
That
right?
you can be like in the middle of a meeting, well, what happens if we do this? What happens if we do
Right.
that?
That was-
What does your budget look like instead of scribbling on the edge?
That was a huge
The
thing.
bottom line of the budget, right? So you make a change right now live, and you can see
It
the
tells
impact
you.
as you're going
Yeah.
through the meeting.
Yeah. And I
Which
it's
last
live
year we were
too.
doing, cost of living adjustments and trying to figure out, we went from 8% or 5% down to 3%, and then
Yeah.
we were carrying that through the entire
and I
budget
think
with our calculators.
Catherine,
It was
if you or
just
Jacob are
obnoxious.
able to carry that Excel application through the budgeting season and we have that to work with in addition to the binder, because I'm still a paper person, it's nice to be able to look at this page and see everything together. I think that would be extremely valuable to have everything in it, at least like the actual, like this part in
Yeah.
Excel. You know, the long format things, the big charts, they do not lend themselves to being in Excel at all. Even though they're in Excel, but having it out in front of you and being able to see all of the columns at once makes it easier to look at that. What's this change over time? And what are we looking at?
So the Excel is easy this year because we're not going through the data conversion issues.
Okay.
Anything we created was not correct.
Okay.
But now it is.
Yeah, and that was the other thing that added to the complications last year, was trying to mesh all that stuff together and get them to fix it and all that stuff. So
Well-
hopefully it will be more
Yeah.
streamlined this year.
You
I think
know,
it'll be a lot more efficient if we just do what we just said we were going to do. I think you cut the time in a third.
Right.
It's much easier to make decisions when it's live. To me, it's like you're always second guessing because we make a choice or decision, and you don't really truly understand the impact on the bottom, right? But
I mean,
that's what it is.
I also think though that it's, at least for me, I know it took me some time to kind of put things together, but I'm also a person that's going to ask why. And if I ever get an answer of, well, that's the way we've always done it, that's like the worst answer for me. Now you're going to give me to sit down and I'm going to be like, all right, so why? Why have we always done it that way? And that's where I start to dig in. Okay, that means that there's definitely been improvements at some point.
So should we, not that I want more rules, but should we set some sort of guideline that if a budget line changes by X percent, it requires an explanation? Not a written document, but just I changed it by this much and this is why. Boom.
When they come
Anything-
in for their
Yeah.
Be ready to talk
Section.
about it.
Yeah, you're ready to be prepared to have that conversation because we're going to ask you. It's 15% different.
I was going to say more than 10.
Yeah.
I think 10 is a fair number. And I like that idea.
And then that helps us kind of hone in on things that,
And maybe I called the power company and they said they see a rate increase coming in 3 months. Perfect. Done. Check.
check, move on.
Yep.
Next one.
I think that's a good idea. The last topic was just the budget workshop season, and I think we can discuss that. We can have the whole council take a look at it. I mean, I think maybe, well, hopefully it's smoother than last year, but I think having 10 or 12 topics all in one night is a tall task for anything. So, I don't know. I mean, I guess we can discuss it as an entire council, but
Should be paired up based on the size of the budget.
Well, the first one is all the little stuff.
Yeah.
And the things that don't have major budgetary
Right.
impacts.
We get them out of
like
the
the
way.
legal budget and assessing
Yeah.
kind of
But could you
got-
pair?
elections.
it's
Could
got
you pair
general
a small one?
assistance.
Could you pair a small one with a large, more open for argument, and then that way that night, each night is more balanced? Instead of having 3 large items and 6 small items, we have 1 and 2, 1 and 2, 1 and 2, all the way through, and then you don't have one night where you're going 11:30, 12 o'clock. You're kind of
Well,
I mean-
you could, but if you look at the 11-14, Public Works, Building Grounds, Transfer Station, Recycling are all the same department head. So
It's
it
all
makes
done,
sense to
yeah.
group those
Part of
all
what I
together.
set up.
I can see
Rather
that
than
one,
have
yeah.
them come, like, all these, and then not do any of those at the same time, like fire, police, communications, animal control, those are all like, they have implications on each other because they're all emergency services, you know?
There's
I mean,
there's
I
some
personally
really
like the
contentious
layout.
budgets too, though.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not totally against it. I just,
Yeah, but out of those, there's only two, which would be fire department, which I don't understand the contention. We already agreed to buy a fire truck, so.
Hopefully that's
the
it,
money's
yeah.
just sitting there waiting. It's been approved in 2022 for 2023 expenditure, so it's still there. If we want to revisit this again, we still have the authorization to do that, whether it happens this year or not.
we're not doing that.
Nope. Nope.
You know, so maybe the conversation there is just reauthorizing those funds, or however you want to do that. But in general, the fire department is not a contentious thing.
Well, it will be-
Communications
Yeah,
isn't.
might
It
be this
really
year.
doesn't even exist anymore. Wasn't that removed and put into the police department?
Yeah.
It was supposed to be taken out this year. And then animal control, same thing. You know, the same department head has to do those. So.
No, I get it. I'm
I
just
will-
thinking.
I will guarantee you there will be a question asked of how many SCBA tanks have been pulled out of the box. Yeah, I guarantee that's going to be a question asked.
Well, ask the question.
Yeah, no, I'm just
You
saying
know?
that's where the contention's coming. Because look in the window, there's a lot of them sitting there.
But
Crazy.
anyway,
Oh,
I mean, we'll get full council input, I guess. I mean, it's not terrible. I could just see like 11/8 being a long night, but hopefully it's
Well,
not
no,
too painful.
those are pretty regular items, usually without not much changes.
That's just setting the public hearing.
so
That's just saying, yeah, let's have it on this date. 11/8.
The line above.
Oh,
Yeah,
I was
there's
looking
two-
at the next one.
two
Right.
items.
Same thing.
Yeah. Oh,
That's just
sorry.
an
I didn't see
That's
that
our
one.
morning meeting.
are any of these?
Afternoon meeting.
I don't look. Are any of these budget workshops on Tuesday nights?
I'm sure they are.
It should all be Tuesday night.
Yes,
for
except with the
11/8.
election one. 11/8 is a Wednesday. I believe,
They should all be Tuesday nights.
because of the election.
The long ones are going to be the ones that are after the regular council meeting.
And again,
So, anyway,
we're supposed to have less agenda items.
How come we have a
So-
council meeting on the 21st and the 28th of November? I think there's an error there. It should be.
No, it's to get things done in time for 12/5.
Well, I know that, but we don't have a regular council meeting on the 28th. It would just be the 21st. It would just be a workshop on 11/28. We wouldn't have a
Oh,
regular
I see
council
what you're
meeting.
saying,
too.
okay.
Um, so I guess is everybody kind of good with the calendar-ish? Maybe we'll discuss it, I'm sure,
I'll reword
with the rest of the
the
council.
11/28, I'll reword that one, and I'm gonna, because the paperwork's gotta go out this week, so they have enough time, I'll just put draft across each page.
I think that the revamping of the budget board and stuff can happen next year. And to Eric's point, tell the department heads that they need to answer questions and be prepared to answer
Yes.
questions not about their budget and not just be like, I'm here. Here's my budget. You
Yeah,
know,
so
just be
then-
prepared for interaction and answering questions about all the line
As
items.
well as prepared to talk if a budget line is 10% increase.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think that's a good
I think it's a fair threshold.
threshold.
I like that idea. Thank you, Eric.
No, thank you.
Thank you both. You're doing
I
great.
tell you what, you have impressed me. You've spoken more than you have in the last 12 meetings.
Mike's not here. I can actually speak.
I know, see? You're
I
welcome.
don't care.
You
He
are
would laugh
welcome.
if he was here. I'd probably tell him, actually.
Any other business that any committee members have specifically, or? I think we're probably,
Catherine, when do we get?
I had something, I can't remember what it was.
Oh, I had something if you're still thinking
Go
about
ahead.
yours. Can you make sure that Peter, Peter Snow had talked about needing more space at the cemetery and possibly using that shed that was the ice skating rink shed that's sitting down at Public Works or something. And we can talk about either reallocating that to cemetery, or if that's not going to fly, then having him put in a capital request for either building another shed or adding on to the shed that he had there. I talked to him and he said something, this was months ago, but he said something about needing someplace to store the gasoline separate from other things and being able to have some space for all of the mowers and all of the
So
equipment
he's
to
been
be in there.
requested to do that, and when he arrived at the department head meeting, he stated he was working on that.
Okay.
And Donnie and I will assist him with that.
Okay.
Because
Because that's a project that he has to go through the
The little,
process.
the
to
little
do.
shed is going to the police department.
police department bought that.
Yeah.
Where is it,
They're gonna
gonna
use
be
that
stationed?
they're
Out
gonna
here.
use that shed for, out here for the items that, the police chief has brought in for different activities.
Are
He
we
has a
parking
lot
it
of,
next to the storage shed?
he has a lot of collectibles.
More or less.
We're getting.
Yeah, it's the ideal size for him. He didn't want to go to the reuse building, and the reuse building is going to be opened up, so none of us are going down there.
Well, it keeps things handy for him too, rather than having to get in.
So what was the issue? It's the gasoline.
I can't remember.
Just
He
needs more
said
storage.
he had
Storage.
mowers and he needed something didn't fit in the shed that's there now, and like gasoline cans and stuff should be stored separately from other things.
It's a little crowded in there.
Yeah.
He needs more room, but that shed is
We're not
not
gonna use the shed.
right for
Doesn't he have a
him.
ton of money?
I don't know.
Doesn't cemetery have?
Cemetery has
That's
money.
the only
It's just where
department
he
that
has
has
to
a
bring
lot
the
of money.
project
Bring
during
it.
the budget season and not in June.
Right.
He asked me about it before, so.
Yeah, they have their trust account, so that will be fine.
And another project, I don't know if he thought about this or not, but he talked before about how all the cemetery records are on paper in books and things.
Yeah, we've talked
And
about
that those
that.
should be digitized and that might be like their own, I mean, just like everything else, digitization needs to be done. So that might be their own project that they can fund, but he has to bring that as a project to the budgeting process.
Yes, that's been talked about also, and just so you know, Peter is retiring at the end of the year.
2023.
Which he needs to do, and we haven't advertised it yet.
Going around.
Yeah, we haven't advertised it yet, but we've already got an applicant who came in and talked about the need for the digitization and getting the records all in
How many
several locations and everything.
How many records are there?
There are several books. They're like the old town meeting books.
Like ledger style.
There's 5 or 6 of them.
Ledger. Ooh.
Basically, it's where everybody's been buried and who has plots and
Oh my God.
payments and all that stuff.
Gotcha. Okay. Did you? Are you good?
That was my thing. Did you
Okay.
think of your
Did
thing?
you? think
Yeah,
of
I
it?
did. And it ties back into here, kind of. Only because I don't see the money going out yet. Paving. Where are we with this? We are first week of September, and one road's been done.
They actually, I was told that 3 more roads have been done. I just haven't been out.
What road is that?
Weber was
Yeah, I
Yeah,
haven't
that's
seen
a
them.
long time ago. That was good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
I thought they sounded like they were on tap. I mean, when I asked Donnie about it last meeting, he said they were smoking it.
Oh, really? Okay. I didn't hear that, so I didn't know.
Yeah.
They've not been on the highway in quite a while, so I didn't know like where they were.
Yeah, this happened all of a sudden.
Okay, good.
Good.
Yes,
Awesome.
they have they were told that they would be fined, nicely, but it would happen this year, and the fine is a lot larger, so.
Yesterday was 54 degrees in the morning. That's kind of what got me thinking about it. I'm like, oh my goodness, here we go again.
It's
Yeah,
a good
the
thought.
actual frost on the vehicle.
Tuesday will be 89. If anybody, if everybody else is good, I think we can adjourn.
Second. Making a motion?
There's no motion needed, right?
I don't think so.
Not needed,
Good.
Jason said so.
but you both
Yeah.
did it.
Jason said so. I like
He's
this.
stomping it.
Stone.
8,
All right. Thank you guys, appreciate it.
No, thank you for putting this together.
I at least let Eric talk.
Well,
This can't be a joke the next meeting.
You know what though? You know what that means though? I really hope you get elected again this year. Because if
Are
you
you
actually
still
let people
running for
talk, I
law
know where you need to
position?
sit.
Jason, are you still running for both positions?
What's that?
Are you still running for both positions?
No, I was never doing that. I don't want to.
We were just teasing the whole, you got all excited there.
I don't know why, I did it last time too, and then I figured out which one I wanted.